Hi, my name is Dave Baskind, and I work as a professor at a community college where I've been teaching for about 20 years now. And in a typical day, I get up pretty early. I'm usually up between 5 and 6 a.m. I usually check some student emails at that time and maybe do a little bit of grading. Most mornings I head out to college somewhere between about 8 and 9 o'clock, and I'll usually have a morning class, and then there's usually a break before my next class meets. During that break time, I usually catch up on student emails, I'll grade some papers. Sometimes if I get the chance, I'll work out a little bit. I like to do that. And sometimes there are meetings that I have to attend to. I like to catch lunch in there too. And then I'll have usually one or two classes in the afternoon. And following that, I usually spend about an hour in my office before coming home. I like to be able to get my stuff organized for the next day's classes, and I like to be able to check student emails again before leaving work for the day. In the evenings, I will sometimes do some grading. I might create tests for upcoming classes. I might do a good bit of work also for my online classes, where I'm setting up some of the discussion boards or looking over the contributions that students have made there. I typically do not come into work on Fridays, but on occasion there will be meetings. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I might have to do some grading. I might again create some tests for upcoming classes and spend some time, again, taking a look at what's going on in my online class. You usually have to stay pretty on top of the online classes to ensure the discussion boards are going well, to grade student work that's been submitted, and to field questions from the students there. Plus, I like sending out a weekly email to those students letting them know what's coming up, just so that it'll help remind them of the upcoming activities within the class. So the requirements for teaching at a community college are of course going to vary from place to place, but typically you need at least a master's degree in psychology, and oftentimes a PhD is helpful. I know that for me, the fact that I had my Doctor of Philosophy degree definitely helped me to land the job that I'm currently in. That said, though, of the people who teach full-time at the school where I'm at, about half of us have the PhD, and about half just stopped after receiving their master's degree. I felt that one of the things that was most helpful in terms of getting me this job was the fact that I had taught a lot of classes as an adjunct professor beforehand. While I was still in graduate school, I was able to receive some assistantships and loans, but once I was able to, I tried to get as many teaching positions as possible. And so before I got this full-time job, I had taught probably about 10 to 12 different classes as an adjunct instructor at some colleges that were nearby or at the one that I was attending at the time. And I would say one other thing that can be really helpful in terms of preparation for the job would be to take some classes in teaching pedagogy. Took one of those classes and it gave me an opportunity to consider things like how often to give tests, how to set up a syllabus, and what to do over the course of a semester. Joining the APA's Teaching of Psychology division is also really helpful because then you get connected with a lot of other people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, and they often have great resources available as well. In terms of the best and the worst parts of the job, I'll start here with the worst part, and honestly, this is something I do to myself. I oftentimes put a lot of pressure on myself to grade student work and to return it to students by the next class period, and usually I'm able to do that. The thing is, though, that sometimes there's a whole lot of grading to be done. I might have a number of homework assignments or tests that are due at the same time, and when I've got a big stack of papers and I feel like I need to get it back to students immediately, that can sometimes be stressful, because when the workday is ended and when I'm able to go back home, I like being able to spend time with my family or to just relax. And I know it's important to give students immediate feedback so they can learn best, but sometimes that creates some additional stress in my life when I'm trying to return everything in a timely fashion. In terms of the best parts of the job, there's a lot of them. This is a job that I really have fallen in love with. One of the things that I really enjoy about the job is the colleagues that I interact with. These are people who are knowledgeable, they inspire me, they're creative, and they really make coming to work a lot of fun. These are people who I spend my free time with also. I love socializing with them, and they really make this job awesome. One of the other best parts of the job is when I have an opportunity to really inspire students. When they've learned something they didn't know before, when they see the world in a different way, or when I've been able to maybe inspire their career path, those are some of the most rewarding moments for me. And other times I even know the impact is bigger than that. When students are able to get a better night's sleep, or to study better for a test, or to help someone who is in crisis because of some of the things that we've talked about in class, those moments are really, really rewarding for me. And it's one of the things that gets me excited about coming to the job each day because I know that I can have an impact on students' lives. So I've been teaching now for about 20 years full time and about 25 years total. And I want to leave you with some advice to consider before setting off in this career of teaching at a college, especially a community college. First of all, I would encourage you to take a communications class. I know that when I was in high school, I was shy and I was quiet, and the thought of public speaking really terrified me, and I avoided any opportunities to do so. In retrospect, I wish that I had taken a communications class so I could have learned some better speaking skills, and I think this would have helped me, especially when I first began my teaching career. Second thing I would encourage you to do is to teach as many classes as you can. Maybe start by offering to substitute for an instructor or peer of yours. Even just being in front of a class to teach a small section can be really helpful. I know one of the first experiences I had was in front of a room of 250 undergraduate students, and the instructor who I was working as a TA for said, "You pick the topic and I want you to talk to them about it." And it was only 10 or 15 minutes, but it was really helpful in terms of kind of getting my feet wet in regard to teaching. And after that, I started as a teaching assistant, first by doing more of the grading, and then by leading lab sections, and then eventually getting my own sections. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So I would say teach as much as you can. And the third thing I would encourage you to do is to get feedback. Feedback from students is really valuable. They'll tell you what's working, what isn't working. Looking at their test scores also will give you feedback in terms of what you're explaining effectively and what's not working as well. But I would say also get feedback from your peers. Oftentimes I've had peers come into my classes and they've given me really valuable advice in terms of what I'm doing effectively and what kinds of things I might want to consider changing. And as the years have gone on, I've continued to have peers visit my classes, and I've visited theirs too. And that's the other thing I would leave you with. When you visit other colleagues' classes, you can see what they're doing, and that gives you a chance to maybe consider changing some of what you're doing as well. So communications classes help, get more experience teaching, and then really listen to the feedback that you're getting from anyone, whether it's your colleagues or whether it's the students. And you got to be flexible and make changes along the way to keep improving.